All right, man. First and foremost, this is definitely an honor, man. I'm glad to have you on the show. We should have been connected. It's been a while. For the viewers who may not recognize you, man, let them know who you are and definitely where you from.
Word up. My name is Jay Webb, but I go by MC Picket Fence. I'm a hip hop artist, underground artist from Dayton, Ohio.
That's what's up, man. Big shout out to Dayton, man. Y'all definitely be holding
Oh,
it down, in every aspect. Much respect for that city and everybody in that area, for sure, for
word
sure.
up. We appreciate it for real.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Um, I want to talk to you a little bit about the hip hop. Coming from Dayton, coming from the Midwest, Ohio. I'm from Cleveland myself. So, how did you first get exposed to hip hop? Was it something that you kind of tuned in from the radio or from TV, or was it already in your community at that time? Maybe y'all had park jams, or you had family members, or.
I say what got me tuned in quick was I had a close family member that was a DJ here in Dayton on the radio. So even though the radio wasn't playing hip hop around that time, which was about 79, 80, 81 in that era, he would get those records. So he would have those records around the house. Shout out to Langford the Man Stevens, who was a DJ on WDAO, which is the local urban station here. So I would tune into those records. And then my sisters, my two older sisters, Kim and Tony, and a friend of ours, Train, they took me to see all those early hip hop movies. So I saw Breakin' and Beat Street at the movies. And around, I guess, second grade, I moved to Huber Heights. So we had different cable than we had in the city, and they had USA Network. And I saw movies like Wild Style, which really blew my mind. That just like totally opened me up. And so, like a lot of people my age, their first song would have been like Rapper's Delight, which we all know. But I think the song that got me was The Message, which was from the same label that Rapper's Delight was on.
Wow, that's what's up. You took it back, man. That's almost like the beginning. I know they was
Oh, yeah.
doing things on the underground, but like you say, Sugar Hill Gang 78, man. Wow, that's amazing. So I could ask you a little bit more about that. I mean, how does it feel? Hip hop just celebrated 50 years and you pretty much got wind of it from, like you say, the message that's taking it back. How does it feel to see hip hop unfold the way that it has and you're still being a part of it, still dropping music?
Well, I love still being able to be a part of it, especially as an underground artist. I'm not in the top three or whatever, the big three or whatever you call it, or and those type of more popular artists. But since the beginning and even to now, I've always preferred underground rap because it is street music. It is music that was created and for the community. We all know the story of how it's grown and become more pop and more and out of our hands, I would say. Um, but I still love being able to do it, and I actually enjoy like being an underground artist, getting to do smaller venues because it's more intimate. It's the people that are there, it's not about a pop thing. It's people that more than likely are not just fans of the culture, but participating in the culture in some aspect, whether it's graffiti artists in the audience, b-boys and b-girls in the audience, street fashion people, people who are poets, people that are really involved in hip hop culture and not just rap.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Now I can ask you. Now, when did you actually begin to participate, and did you start off as an MC? Because it seemed like you into different aspects of hip hop. If you could talk about that a little bit.
I actually started off as a b-boy first because, like I said, I saw breaking and I saw Beat Street, so I was really into b-boying. Getting the cardboard out and going to it out on the street. That was my first thing in the culture of hip hop is being a b-boy. I then transitioned to the rap and the graffiti kind of at the same time. And early part of my hip hop career, I was in the suburbs. We moved from Dayton to the suburbs of Dayton, Huber Heights, in the early '80s. Which, if you were familiar with Huber Heights, Ohio, in the early '80s, it was kind of like Stranger Things minus the monsters. It was an area where you didn't have to lock your doors, and everybody knew everybody. I know, even though it was only 5-10 minutes away from the city, people felt like they were going out of town when they went to Huber Heights during that era. It wasn't a metropolis like it is now. Now they have all these shopping centers and stuff like that out in Huber Heights. But the biggest thing out there probably was what we called Flicker Palace, which was the movie theater, a small theater, probably not even 100 seats in there. We had, I think today most cities have like Save a Lot, but back then it was called Stumps, the discount grocery store. And then of course, you had Kroger's, but there weren't big shopping centers in Huber Heights. It was like the real cookie cutter suburbs back then. Then mid '80s, right before the crack era, my mother lost her job and we moved back to the city and to one of the urban projects. And that really just amplified hip hop for me. And that's when I got into the more rapping and especially graffiti. I'm not a graffiti artist now by any sorts of the matter, but I was really big into tagging and tagging my name. Everybody wants to be seen and heard. Just to get up, as the old Rakim song was in that video game back in the day. Just to get up. And that's what it was about then. And I started doing little like it was still the '80s, so we were doing like jingle type of raps. We had a song called "Milk Does the Body Good" based off the commercial from back in the '80s. And then later on, I just like really got into crafting rhymes. I had an older cousin, Double D, and his friend Smooth E, and they really taught me how to like really like craft rhymes from the jingle aspect to the more high skilled aspect of like a LL Cool J, Rakim, KRS-One. Instead of like when I started off, it was more Curtis Blow, Fat Boys, and they really helped me develop into like the real lyricism of it.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate you breaking that down. Now, I could ask you now, did Dayton have like a hip hop scene of its own by that time? By like I guess the late '80s, was it any local Dayton rappers, or when did that scene come about?
We had a few groups, one that actually did tour nationally, who at one point in time in my life was he became my boss, and he a friend. I think the first time I met him I was about 11 or 12 years old, so that was still in the '80s, um, mid '80s. And he toured with the Fresh and the Fat Boys and all those earlier artists. His name was Doc Ease, and seeing him was one of the things that made me be like, yo, I want to do it. The second thing that really made me want to do it was I was in eighth grade, so it's about 13 years old. Me and my best friend MC McGee, who was in my first rap group, and a couple of friends of ours, we went and saw that Fresh Fest with who was on that tour? Dana Dane, the Fat Boys, Salt and Pepper, and UTFO. And after like the show, we like snuck back in the back when they were getting on the tour bus, and I got to shake the Fat Boys' hands, and I was like, "Yeah, this is what I want to do. This is really what I want to do." And at that point, I still wasn't crafty yet. I didn't become crafty probably to like my freshman year in high school when I said my cousin Double D and Smooth E, they really taught me how to craft rhymes and really got into the production and stuff. They were really about making beats. At the time before them, we were like rapping over the instrumentals of people and stuff like that, but they were both beat makers. So we started rapping off of, what I'm saying, our own music. And as far as a hip hop scene, we didn't really have a hip hop scene. Like I said, we had Doc Ease and East Town Posse. We had a in Dayton public school system. We had a radio station. So there was a guy named DJ Rob, and he used to play local music. But a scene, I don't think we really developed the scene until like the early '90s, and we had a real strong underground hip hop scene in the '90s. We had a few spots that we could go to and perform, whether it be like, so the way it was set up, it was like you would have a performance from a local artist, and then the rest of the night would be like open mic freestyle. And we had a few artist groups that were really like on the radio. And back then, we underground artists didn't really get on tours, at least from our area. But what they were able to do is do a lot of raves, and raves were always looking for underground artists. So we would, you wouldn't get on to like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning at sometimes, but we were young then, so we didn't care about that. And we would go out to Antioch College, which is about 30 minutes away from Dayton and Yellow Springs. Big up to Donnell and Dave Chappelle, who were out in Yellow Springs now. But back then, the biggest thing in Yellow Springs was the college. And you had people like Coretta Scott King went to Yellow Springs, Antioch School. So it was known for, like, I guess Yellow Springs would be considered a hippie town. They were real big on civil rights. Like I said, Coretta Scott King went to Antioch. And so they were really about their African American studies. I think Dave Chappelle's mom or dad was a residency out there. I know one of them was a residency at Wright State, which is about 10 minutes away from Antioch. So they were really about the culture. And we had a lot of jazz bands to go and record out there. So the rave scene was it for us. We were like into artists like Dale, Tribe. So those raves were really good for us. Like I said, we were able to do shows. And in that era, say an artist would come to your town, and a Biggie, Craig Mack, or something like that, you were able to open up for those artists for no charge. And I see a lot of promoters now, which I think that that's something that diminishes our culture, is they'll charge local artists some crazy amount of money for 15 minutes to open up for
Okay, okay. I want to kind of ask you about your latest project, man. Space Guy. You had sent me a link. I got to check out the tracks, man. They bumping. I mean, it sounds crispy. It sounds different from everything else that I'm hearing. It's very refreshing to hear that project. I'm glad you shared it with me. Um, Now I can ask you, was there any inspiration for that project? Like, was you on something like, man, I ain't did nothing in a while, or did you feel like you had to meet a quota, like it's time to drop something else, or maybe you watched a movie or read a book, or just at a time period in your life, like I want to get back in the booth. And also, by you coming from the old school to the new school, the recording process, if you could talk about that, because it used to be like maybe vinyl and analog and tapes, but now then it went to CDs, and now you got even digital. So is that better for you, or you miss the old days? If you could talk about those two things.
I'll start with the last question. I do miss the old days. I think that, especially when it comes to underground artists, to preserve the culture, I think we need to get back to tangible goods. And I heard, that's not an idea of my own. I heard A. Rashid talk about it. He was more talking about it in the actual art sense. But I think as our culture as a whole, we need to get back to tangible goods. One, especially because underground artists don't get the venues that major artists get. And I think those sales coming directly to us helps us be able to continue to do what we do. I think that tangible goods are also good because it shows your real enthusiasm and love as a fan of the culture, and someone, like I said, you don't have to be a rapper, you don't have to be a b-boy, you don't have to be an artist to be a part of hip hop culture. But being a part of hip hop culture and loving it, you want it to continue to be sustainable. And tangible goods is one of those things that helps it be sustainable. I don't have the exact numbers, but I saw, every year when they, like, people post their Spotify status or spins or streams, you always follow that up with, this is how, if there's a post about, this is how many streams you actually have to get to receive a decent amount of money, which is, it's never a lot of money. And of course, I mean, that's the bad side of it. But also, the good side of streaming is you're able to reach a lot more people than you might be able to, especially coming after COVID. People are just still starting to get back out of it. I think that that's the good side of it. The bad side of it is underground artists, which a lot of people that are really fans of hip hop, we strive to get that. So I think that tangible goods really helps with that because I want that underground. I want Homeboy Sandman, Planet Asia, Blueprint, who I'm opening up for later next week. I want those artists to be able to continue to make music along with myself, and I hope that the fans that I have want me to be able to keep able to doing that. And to do that, I think tangible goods is how artists like myself and those others are able to continue to do it. Because I mean, I'm still working. I'm a factory worker. I work in a warehouse. I'm getting to the age where that type of work is probably not the best for my body. I'll be 50 coming up this Thursday, and it's a real physical job. That's more of a job for a younger person. But along with that, if I'm able to sustain with tangible goods, whether it be my music, I also have merch. This is my line right here, the hat and the hoodie. uh, Doing shows, and not only doing rap shows, or my wife is a DJ, and we also do seminars that are sometimes hip hop seminars, sometimes they're self care seminars because we do have a self care podcast. Her day job is an intervention specialist. I have a certification in natural health. So if we're ever to put on those seminars, we try to tie those things, which those things are hip hop culture, because a lot of people don't talk about when we talk about the elements of hip hop. Of course, we know DJing is the beginning, graffiti, breaking, and then the rapping, but we forget about the other aspects like knowledge. So we try our best to spread knowledge, and it's a hardcore world. So we want to give people a little to no cost way of kind of breaking off the world. I saw a meme the other day that said, you work 8 hours to live 4 hours. You work 5 days to get 2 days off. We are breaking ourselves. When is there really time for the real essentials of life? I know we don't come here just to be workhorses and part of the system. And especially being, of African descent, we are creators. Whether it not be just hip hop, we are creators. We create formulas, we create medicines, we create the science that moves the world, we create fashion that the world follows. So we need that time that we have to develop those different things. And what was the other part of the question? That question the last question kind of led it to a long little thing there.
Right. No, you dropping some gems, man. I appreciate you. So I guess what I wanted to ask you was, and you definitely answered that thoroughly. So what I wanted to ask you, like going into this project, did you have any inspiration or motivation, and what was the recording process like? And you talked about like mental health. What does that do for your mental health? Being able to write your own music, then get in the studio, then record it, then sell it, then got merged, and maybe even perform it, and then get feedback from people.
Well, there was a couple different motivations. I actually had started working on an album like in 2021 with my real great friend. He's not even a friend, he's my little brother. He's about 10 years younger than me, so he's like a little brother to me. And he's real hard body in the music. And coming off of COVID and things like that, and just life in general, kind of, it gets to us. So he kind of wanted to take a break from doing music. So we had this project, which is still in the can, and I'm glad to say it is coming out. It will be coming out sometime towards the end of summer, so look for that too. But he kind of wanted to take a break, so I was like, dang, we were like really on a hot streak. We were starting to do a lot of shows in the process of recording this album. He's a DJ and a producer, so he was DJing a lot of gigs and just a lot of stuff. You know how life is, life gets you, and he kind of wanted to take a break. So that kind of left me like, dang, we have all this work that we've done, probably about 20 songs that I don't know if people are going to hear it. I feel like we're really revved up right now, and I don't want to stop this. So that was one factor. Um, Also, my son, who is an artist himself, he's more into streaming. He's one of those video game streamers. He has a streaming team, and he's hard bodying that, but he's also a really dope MC too. And he one time he had mentioned to me, he right before he moved, he lives out of state now. He's out in Oklahoma. He was saying, "Hey, why do you always get so many features on your album?" And and I had to really sit back and think about that. And I never really thought of it as a big thing. He was kind of asking me in a sense of like, do you not think you could do it just by yourself? And it wasn't that. It was just that since my being in hip hop, as far as the rapping aspects of it, I'd always been in a group. And I love groups. I love rap groups. I love Tribe. I love EPMD. I think because you get variations. And even for hip hop, my love is jazz music. So when you hear jazz music, you hear this, the piano solo, you hear the trumpet solo. Everybody's getting their solo, and then it flows back into each other and make a complete sound together. So that's why I love rap groups. So that was, I was like, man, when he said that to me, I was like, thinking, does my son not have confidence that I could do it? Does he think that I only do it because I can't? So that was one thing I wanted to prove, like I can do a project myself. Besides the production of it, the production came from Blue Buttonz, who was a dope producer from South Africa. I was like, I want to be able to do this myself. So that was one motivation. And then not having my partner Cooley with me, who kind of like not only was a recording space, I could depend on Cooley to say, no, do that over. No, you need to do this. It needs to sound more like this. He would help me construct my ideas. So it's like I have to be able to, my son gave me a challenge to stand on my own and do it. I didn't want to stop because I felt like we were on a train was revving up. So I had another friend who was a producer at a time. Was a DJ at a time, but now his biggest focus, shout out to Tim Woods, is making sound, making like underground artists, or what we may consider what we call boom bat or backpacker sound as good as commercial music today. And I mean, he's got all types of machines that manipulates the sound. And he would come into my job at the warehouse, and he would say, yo, if you ever want to, try some things out. And I was like, I had some songs that I had worked on before that didn't quite have that sound, and I never got a chance to work with Cooley on this. So I was like, I want to revisit some of those and extend it. And so I went over to his house, like just trying it out, not thinking a project was going to be involved. I just wanted to see how the sound would be, trying to do something just on my own. So I recorded 3 songs the first time I was over there, 2 hours, knocked out 3 songs. He gave me 2 of the songs to listen to, like a little quick mix on them. And then, so the next time I did 3 more songs. And then I did 4 songs. So I did like 3 or 4 sessions where I did 3 or 4 songs, which project is 11 songs. So you could do the math on that. But he only let me have those 2 songs at first. And he kept it. And so he would come into my job and he was like, I'm telling you, it's going to be good. He's like, I'm not going to let you get it yet because I know most people want to get it and check it out and see how it sounds. He's like, let me do what I do. So I was like, man, okay, it's done. I got to the 11 songs that I wanted. It was done, but he was, working on it, putting his touches on it. And I'm so glad that I waited. But I was like, dang, is this going to be a project now? Is it going to come out? So about March, he comes in there and he was like, all right, I've been riding around with it in the car, and I let my girl hear it. And she was like, yo, I like this. It sounds different. It sounds different from what's out. And that's the main thing I wanted people to be. And not only that, but not only does it sound different, it still sounds good. The quality of it sounds good. The sound is loud because sometimes you hear a lot of underground music and it's lower just because of the process that we make underground hip hop. But he made it sound big, and I was like, yo. So I was like, March, and going to the cover art of the album is actually a painting somebody gave me. A good friend of mine that I've put out a couple of animated videos. He did all the animation work. He also has a movie on Tubi called F Child Support, which is an animated movie by a director here, Jason Dayton, Best Kept Secret, who has a lot of movie on Tubi right now. He has Fentanyl, and I forget the other one. What's the thing that everybody was scamming on? The PUA, is that it? What people were scamming on with the COVID money?
The PPP.
Yeah, the PPP has a PPP movie. So shout out to Jason Hampton. So he has like several movies to be. One of them is an animated movie, and Juan Adams is who did that, and he also did a couple of animated videos for me. One time I was out with my wife. She was DJing at Phenom Friday, which is at the Barrel House, a local beer bar we have here. And he was like, hey, Can you come outside right quick? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right. So I go out to the car, and he has this like 16 by 20. Some people say it's bigger. Now I don't know measurements of art, but it's a big picture, and it's a painting of it, which is the cover. And I was just overwhelmed. I didn't know what to say. He just gave it to me as a gift. He said he was a fan and he loved working with me. He said that him doing my animated videos was made him able to do the series F Child Support. And I just was like, when I saw it, I was like, this has got to be an album cover. I don't know. I didn't have an album in mind at the time. He gave me to about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So that was the cover. And I like to think of myself as I guess I don't like to use the term, but I'm a conscious person. You know what I'm saying? I'm a student of metaphysics. That's what I like to say. I'm a student of metaphysics. I have a spiritual teacher, Indra Ali, S. Ali Myers, if some knows him. Shout out to him. And he just always talks about, you know, not only manifesting your gifts, but believing in your gifts and learning your own gifts and learning yourself. And the combination of doing the work in the studio and that picture and his teachings was like, okay, it's time. And all of them like connected to each other. So that was another motivation for the album. And like I said earlier, before hip hop, I'm a jazz fan. I grew up on jazz music. Me and my mother used to go to sleep to either classical and jazz music every night when we would fall asleep to it. You all seen that meme with the everybody had this clock on their nightstand. That clock had a radio with a timer, and we would just fall asleep to jazz and classical music. Although I'm from Dayton, my parents are from Chicago, so you know jazz and Chicago, how they relate to each other. So that fueled the album. So most of the album, I would say 85% of it is jazz samples from jazz albums that I loved. And what I would do is Blue Buttonz had some tracks already, and then we would just talk. We would talk. I met him on Facebook, so we would talk back and forth, talk about different albums that we like, and I would send him an album or a song, and he would chop it up and send it back. And I'm like, yo, okay, I want to use this. I want to use that. So when I hooked up with Tim and started, seeing how it would sound, it just it came together, and he was like, the sound is probably the loudest, in comparison to like artists that are out already. Like when I played, like before, I would play like one of my songs and play somebody is out, and it might sound lower. Like I said, because of the process how we make underground hip hop. But now I'm like been playing my album now that it's on streaming services and playing somebody else's album, and the levels are right there with each other. So that was, all of that was motivation, and it was just like I'm happy with the project, and so far I've had like a lot of good feedback about it.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man. I know you got to make some moves, so I want to thank you again for coming on the platform. It's definitely an honor. I really, really want to thank you again for the what is it called? Y'all do the daily messages on the self
Oh, the
care
self care
assignment.
sign. Yeah.
Yeah, man, keep doing that. I love them. I don't catch them every time because I be doing so much, but when I
Oh, I
catch them,
know
I be
you
like,
be
that was
moving.
good.
I know you. I see you
Yeah,
moving, and I want to say too before we get off here is like how much I appreciate what you do and how important it is to the culture and the people that are really involved, and not just hip hop culture. I'm talking about urban, black, African descendant, Afrofuturists, because I don't like to get stuck in the past. We have to consider ourselves in the future because a lot of people don't want us in the future. So that's I also call myself an Afrofuturist because if you look at old sci-fi, 70s, 80s sci-fi, might be one black character, if any. And I want to develop, and if you can hear it in my music, I want to develop a mind state that we are here in the future. So what you do and teaching the past and teaching the present will help us get to the future. So I appreciate all the work that you do.
yeah. Likewise, King, and shout out to your wife because y'all doing it together. I appreciate y'all. That's inspiring to me and so many other people. And shout out to your team because, like you say, the sound sonically is loud, it's crispy, the beats is crunchy, and the bars is raw. I'm a cop the project, but for the viewers who want to follow you, who want to support you, they want to check out what you're doing. Let them know where they can get it, where they can download it, and if you got social media or website or anything else.
Word up. I'm on Bandcamp if you want to copy it under Picket Fence. On Bandcamp, Picket Fence #1. That's how you can reach me, or you can reach me on Facebook, of course, under Facebook /Team Picket, or you could just type in Picket Fence and look for the logo, the alien logo, which is been my logo since like '95. So I'm on Facebook. Hit me up. I'm also on Instagram under MC Picket Fence, which I mostly just show what I see. It used to be called Pickett's Window because I just kind of want people to see a view of what I'm seeing, not necessarily a bunch of pictures of me, but just stuff that I'm viewing and stuff like that. So MC Picket Fence. If you're on Spotify, type in MC Picket Fence. I look at myself like how doctors always want to be Dr. So and so. I want you to know that I am an MC. So MC Picket Fence under Apple Music, MC Picket Fence under Spotify or any other streaming service. And you can also get, like you were saying about the self-care assignments, you could get that on Facebook or Instagram under Fly With Us Podcast. First, love yourself.
Man, that's what's up. So the viewers, if you're looking for any, coping mechanisms or ideas to help you, when you're going through stuff mentally, if you're going through stress, depression, anxiety, or all the above, I would definitely recommend checking out the Fly With Us podcast. So I want to thank you again, King. It's been a phenomenal episode,
Word.
and thanks to the viewers for tuning in. Until next time, family. Taye speaks. Peace.
Peace.